Hey, debt rebels. All right. Before we get started, I want to share something that I'm really like trying to contain my excitement about it right now because I start to stumble over my words because I get so excited sometimes. But I'm really excited about this. So I have been listening to all of you. Thank you so much for the feedback and the input and the encouragement and just the ways that you have shown up for not only yourself, but for this community. And it has been such an amazing journey for me and healing for me to share my debt elimination story with you. I want to share more of your stories. And so going into 2025, I've set up something that I'm really excited about because I feel like the thing that I needed most in my journey, the one thing that I would change, and I've said this before, I wish that I had someone and a group of people to come alongside me and my husband to walk this journey with us. And so that's what I'm creating in 2025. I'm creating it's a group coaching opportunity. I want to hear the specific things that you're struggling with in your journey, but I also want to be able to speak into those things and encourage you and give you tools and specific trainings and workshops based on exactly what those things are. This podcast has been really fun and I'm going to continue doing it as long as you continue listening. But I want to dive deeper. And that's what I heard from many of you is that you want to dive deeper into some more of these things. Have some accountability, have some community, because I can share what has worked for myself and for my family. We all come together and share these ideas. This community gets richer and not just in our wallets, but we get to build some relationships, build some community around a like-minded goal. And that for us is debt elimination and living a debt-free life, because we know that what it could provide for us, it's getting there sometimes that we need the extra support. And so that's what I want to create in 2025 for you and your family. And so that you can align your personal finances with what matters to you and your family and your dreams so that you can give up the distractions of credit cards and debts. You can forget when payday is and you can just live your life. Just focus on living your life and being present for the people in your life. So I'm really excited to share this with the Debt Rebel community. I am going to be offering it as a very special introductory price because I'm so passionate about it and I want the most people to be able to have access to this type of coaching. There's a link in the show notes that will have the waitlist on there so you can jump in. So as soon as I launch that, you're going to be notified. It'll also give you some other tools and tips to help you get prepared for this journey in January to launch this thing. So stick around. I'm very excited. If you feel like, hey, I know someone that really needs to be a part of this, share this episode with them, share the link with them. In the meantime, stick around because I'm going to continue to download all of the information that's in my head so that we can continue to change the world and live in a debt-free world.
Welcome to the Debt Rebel podcast, where we discuss the ins and outs of personal finance for families so you can eliminate the burden of debt, create financial margins, and learn a new way to interact with your money. I'm your host, Jules the Budget Nerd, and I have been in your shoes. My husband and I have paid off over $107,000 in consumer debt until we finally threw in the towel and decided it wasn't for us. Throughout our journey, we learned another way to do life without debt, and that's my hope for you. You can learn more about our story and see full show notes on my website, julesthebudgetnerd.com. That's JEWLZ, thebudgetnerd.com. Now let's dive into today's episode.
All right. Hello, everyone. I am so excited for today's episode. We have a special guest, a new friend of mine, Mindi Huebner, and I had the pleasure of working alongside her in a recent cohort we did, talking about our businesses and really getting clear on some things. And so I invited her to share today because she's got some really amazing things. She's a mindset expert and we just bonded over some of the brain stuff about how we can set ourselves up for success when it comes to our finances specifically. But anytime we come up against some hurdles that our mind is kind of getting in the way, and how we can help ourselves out. So this is my friend, Mindi. Thanks for joining us today.
Julian, thank you so much for having me here. This is going to be your most downloaded episode. That's always my intention, that put out
I
into
love
the
it.
world because it's going to come out right on time, super timely, what we're
Yes.
talking about today. And yes, I'm a mindset expert. I want to say that mindset isn't the only thing. However, it is the thing that unlocks all the other things for you. So it
Hmm.
deserves attention. It deserves
Yeah.
our noticing it, paying attention to it, cultivating it, working on it. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I know when I was going through my own journey, I was just like, oh my gosh, like there's a lot of things that can creep into our minds and we can tell ourselves like, hey, I'm not good with this or I'm not good at that. And it's like, yep, but your brain doesn't know if you're telling it a lie or not, right? So
Exactly.
we get to as my daughter says, make new connections in our brains that we get to say, hey, that's in the past. That's not me anymore. And now I'm going to say I'm great at managing money. I am an amazing parent. I am all these things. And so we can rewire our brain, right? So that's what you really like to like dig into and talk about is the mental connections that we can make for ourselves. So I'm like kind of sciencey and I'm like, I like this stuff. I find it super interesting. You're probably going to have a lot better language to be able to put to this because I'm just like, oh my gosh, I think it's super interesting and I know how it works, but I'm not always the best at describing exactly how it works. So can you like download some of your knowledge for us on how to create some like better connections in our brain?
Yes, absolutely. So this is definitely we're still gonna keep it at a basic level because we don't need to use, $5 words for people to understand like how their brain works. Like
Yeah.
that's all we care about. We want the
Yeah.
barrier to understanding to be as low as possible. So understanding like brain plasticity, this is all of us have the capacity, the flexibility in our brain that allows us to adapt to new experiences, learn new information, recover from injury. The brain remains dynamic for us and will make changes well into adulthood. So, yay, right? Like we all have this. Neuroplasticity is the capacity to learn. It's to remember, to adapt, those things. So what it involves is, again, the ability to adapt and change. This is at the heart of a growth mindset. Everyone's got this. Like you are so powerful. So I know there's gonna be people like, I have a fixed mindset. Actually, you have the ability to have a growth mindset. So there's the first thing that you can take in, right, for yourself in rewiring your brain for success. Like you've got, what's that song? I've got the power, I've got the power. Then there's the plasticity, what you're talking about, neurons that wire together, fire together. So repeatedly engaging in positive, growth-oriented thinking like strengthens those neural connections associated with those positive thoughts, making them more automatic, more habitual. So that's the basic of what
Yeah.
happens in there. Like for the sciencey people, there you go. There, your logical brain just lit up like crazy. Tell me the science. So when we slide
Yes.
into a little bit of woo, you're going to trust me because I just gave you the science in this. You
Yeah.
touched on your brain doesn't know the difference between real and imagined. 100%. That's the truth too. And so neuroplasticity plays a crucial role in forming new habits and beliefs, like knowing that you have the ingredients to make the cake already, right? Like you've got the ingredients. Now we just get to put them together and allow the outcome to be the cake. One of the
Well,
ways
that's
we do
good.
that is repetition and consistency. So repeating a thought or action, like think about practicing a new skill all the time, practicing a new skill, looking at your finances, practicing a new skill, no longer saying we can't afford that. And now saying, let's look at the budget. Let's put it in the budget. Or what are we calling a budget? Do we call it a budget? We call it a spending plan.
Yeah. Either one.
Well,
Whatever
okay.
works.
So
Yeah.
let's
I
look at the
love saying
spending
spending
plan.
plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So instead of we can't afford that, let's get it in the spending plan. So it's
Yeah.
really us like repeatedly doing a thought or an action over and over again. This is how we create a new habit. We also do this by focus and attention. So when we're we're really giving focus and attention to a task, that increases the likelihood of those stronger neural connections too. So when we schedule the time for it, we look at our spending plan once a week, or we look at our app that keeps track of our, whatever it is, like all the pieces that we're putting into place, all the puzzle pieces that are coming together for us. That also helps. Like you're creating those new, stronger neural pathways. You think a thought over and over again, it becomes an I am statement. Not only that, it then creates emotions and body sensations. And then you create habits to prove it to yourself. This is how powerful you are. So if you're thinking over and over again, I'm a terrible money manager or I'm bad with money, it becomes an I am. Like it becomes part of your identity and you're so powerful. Your brain wants to prove you right. You're always winning the game you're playing. You are going to, first of all, you're going to feel what it feels like, right? It creates a not great feeling in you. And then you create habits to reinforce that because that's how powerful you are. So you can create habits towards what you actually want as opposed to having habits that keep you in your known zone that is maybe a disempowering identity that you're currently using and standing in, although you don't have to stay there.
Yeah. Oh, I like that last part. You don't have to stay there because we can create some new habits. We can create some new connections. We can do the things to get over that roadblock or that hurdle that's in front of us, get on a smoother path, right?
Exactly. And you hit on affirmations, and I love this. I want to call these like alchemized affirmations. So there's 4 levels of mind. Let's just talk about 3. The first one is thought. You just got thoughts bouncing around randomly. They keep us repeating our past, and maybe we don't want to repeat the past anymore. Or they're nothing thoughts. Like occasionally a nothing thought is great, right? Then there's the next level of thought, and that's like directed thought. This is us. We're the thinker of our thoughts, and so we can always think a greater thought like that. So we've got bouncing around, and then we know, okay, we can direct our thoughts. We're the thinker of our thoughts. Now, alchemized affirmation is intentional, purposeful, directed thinking in the direction of what we want. This is where we want to sit. This is a beautiful place to sit for those helpful affirmations about your abilities, like you were saying. So if I'm a really good money manager, if your body's like, no, you're not, look at the checkbook. Like, what are you talking about? Right. You get to say, I'm listening to Jules to become a really good money manager. I'm creating the habits to become a really good money manager. I'm intentionally learning about money to become a really good money manager. I'm sorry, I started yelling because I get really excited.
I love it.
You get to stair step those alchemized affirmations, those intentionally directed thoughts towards something that you want. And what we tend to do is either say, I'm a millionaire and you're not. And so then people are like, no, these affirmations are garbage. They don't work. Well, when they create those feelings in your body of this isn't true, then yeah, they don't work for you. So that's why you can stair step them in the direction of what you want, whether it's, your financial wellness, anything at all. And you can get really specific on it too as well. So I'm the human who has the tools to become an excellent money manager.
Yeah.
So what happens then, because your brain deletes, distorts, and generalizes based on your beliefs. So if you're fully entrenched in believing that you're a terrible money manager or that you're always going to be broke or that managing money is hard, like creating a spending plan is hard, all those things. And while some of that is fact, it's also like a limiting belief. There's some mix in there. Your brain, because it has to filter, there's so many bits of data coming at you in a day. It has got to have a filtering system or you look like that exploding head emoji. And so it's going to filter it based on what you believe. Going to delete, distort, and generalize based on your belief that, like you'll always be broke or you'll never get this figured out. And it will not show you proof in the direction of you're kind of figuring it out. Like you're on the path. Your RAS, your reticular activating system, another filter that brings you what you anticipate and expect at its very basic level. So if you anticipate and expect in the direction of, I'm never going to figure this out, like, I'm always going to be broke, you win. Again, you're always winning the game you're playing. That's what your RAS is going to bring you. It's got to filter so that you're not just hit with so much that you just can't even handle it. And so the moment that you have these alchemized affirmations, these directed, intentional, purposeful thoughts towards what you want, you start changing that filter. You start creating those new neural pathways.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. I've heard this a lot lately, and this is one of the things that I encourage my clients to go through is like, hey, if there's things that you're seeing maybe on social media or whatever, they're like, man, these are like distractions, and there's the things like our focus, like the things that we see and that we focus our time on, or our mental energies and all those things, like that's what you just keep getting those. And that's what I hear you saying is like, okay, what we think about, what we focus on, we're going to repeat. And so I know from in my own journey, that was really helpful to just say, okay, you know what? I'm done living paycheck to paycheck. Like, this sucks. I don't want to do this anymore, but I need to get some tools. I need to get some things in place, create some new habits so that I don't have to go back there anymore. And so, and like you're talking about, like it's putting new things in your brain, and maybe some of those are less of the things that you're going to have to like you filter through intentionally.
Yes.
So instead of having your brain, because your brain does so much, like our brains do so much just on a day-to-day basis just to keep us breathing and moving and functioning. And then we add those added stressors of, okay, like the financial stuff and our kids bombarding us with questions and needs and all of these things. And so when we kind of simplify some of those things and cut off some of those beliefs that you were just talking about, then it allows our brain more capacity, right, to do things that we want them to be focusing on, right?
Yes, when we train our filters in a way that is empowering to us as opposed to disempowering. Because if everyone thinks right now about habits that they have, everyone's got some habits that are super empowering, that really support them.
Yes.
Maybe you're listening to this and it doesn't happen to be in finance yet. That's okay. You have proof that you know how to have habits that really support you. So you can copy and paste who you're being in those habits right onto your financial habits. Like you get to
translate.
Exactly. So many like school of thought, how you do one thing is how you do everything. Unpopular opinion here, how you do one thing gets to be how you do everything. So you can create change in all areas of your life where you're already showing up like the amazing human that you are, and you've got empowered habits. Ask yourself, who am I being in this? What am I believing about myself that I can show up here and have this devotion towards X, whatever this thing is? I want that devotion towards my financial health and wellness. So I'm going to take some of those thoughts and beliefs and I'm going to copy and paste them onto who am I being, my financial identity as well.
Yes. So being really careful and intentional what we copy and paste.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because what we focus on, we get more of.
Grows.
So,
like attracts like, honestly. So the next way that we help our neuroplasticity, we help reinforce habits that are empowering to us is our environment. Our environmental influence, surrounding ourselves with supportive, similar people who can encourage us in what it is that we want to do will encourage similar neural pathways as well then. So listening to this podcast, hanging out with people who don't want to live paycheck to paycheck anymore, hanging out with people who can let go of the instant gratification for the long-term satisfaction of never having that pressure again of like, where's this money going to come from? How are we going to do this? Or if an unexpected expense comes up, you're covered because you shifted and you started surrounding yourself with people who wanted long-term financial wellness, legacy of that, as opposed to let's do the thing that feels good right now and not worry.
Let's rob from tomorrow.
Exactly.
Not live in the present and learn from the past, but let's rob from tomorrow and make that our thing now. So that's good.
Perfect lead into New Year's resolutions and why people make them and why the very short version of why they fail. First of all, it's not your fault. Right? Like you talked about your brain does all this stuff. Okay, your subconscious runs 95% of everything that's happening, right? Breathing and all the habits that you don't have to think about. And even more that your subconscious thinks in pictures and sounds and feelings. So any translations through that, memories, that's all subconscious. 5% of what you do is with your conscious brain. That's where you're like thinking that you're going to willpower your way through a New Year's resolution, right? When you've got this ant and an elephant, and the ant is your conscious brain that you're like, I can do this. And the elephant's like, could we get in? Like, I don't know about this.
Tomorrow. We'll do it tomorrow.
Exactly. So the reason people set New Year's resolutions, number one, like they feel pressure. Some people just feel pressure to make them. It's because they want to tap into this fresh start mentality. Like as a collective, it's New Year's, new year, new you, like all the things that happen, right? And all the gyms are running specials and, all the things. So we feel like a pressure to set New Year's resolutions. That's one of the reasons they don't succeed, because that is normally like a path to failure is not being clear on why we're doing something. We also, when we set New Year's resolutions, set multiple goals. Too many goals, too much change. 90% of New Year's resolutions are abandoned within a few months. 90%. So if you've ever set one and abandoned it, like you're in really good company. And again, like it's not all on you, right? Like it's not you, it's the goal. Like honestly, and the path to the goal. The optimism that comes from that fresh start is not enough, right? Like it is not enough to be sustainable and to keep us going. And our brains, most of us currently, unless you've done a lot of work, are not wired to manage those huge goals and keep regulated in them. Now you can train yourself. I mean, look at star athletes, right? And the pressure and all that, like you can train yourself to that. However, like, let's just sit down here with us regular humans and bite, eat this elephant one bite at a time kind of a thing.
Well, they have like an insane amount of resources, community help. Like they have sports psychologists and all of this support to help them, because they're not doing it all on their own. It's a lot of effort and a lot of people going into helping them their peak performance. So
yeah. Your subconscious, this is very much worth noting as well, will always take the path of least effort.
Yes.
So you saying, I want to save $5,000, or I'm not spending any money, right? If you have not shown up like that before, again, here we are at willpower. Like you're going to try to muscle for a little bit, and then your brain is going to revert back to least effort. Like we know how to be the person who spends money. We know how to be the person who doesn't have $5,000 saved up. Like this is who we know how to be. So in order to create the pain of staying in our known zone has got to be greater than the pain and fear of change in order for us to make change. We have to say, well, it's more painful to stay here than to step into the unknown. And then we are at a place where we can take aligned action, where we can get 7 whys deep on why we want to have a new spending plan, change our financial health, save, have an emergency fund, like whatever that looks like start saving for, Christmas and birthdays in January this year, so that when the birthdays come, it's just there. It's not, I don't have to scramble. I don't have to think about it, right? Like things like that. Your brain, like you get to start taking those smaller steps towards that and knowing that the unknown has got to be better than the current known, and trusting yourself in that.
Yes, I agree.
We set unrealistic things instead of building proactive habits, right? We say, I'm not gonna eat out ever again. I would make these sweeping like things like that, and that's just not realistic. And so what happens is we then literally binge, right? When we deny, then we just, that is that scarcity abundance. And we're living in scarcity as opposed to living in abundance.
Yes.
When we come into that place, we also like end up really surface level thinking, like resolutions, New Year's resolutions, maybe they're addressing overspending, like, oh, I'm not going to overspend. Okay, well, what's at the root of you overspending? Because that surface level is the problem. Again, why 90% of goals are abandoned. We're not at the root. We haven't gone 7 whys deep, and we don't actually have a plan in place to support us long term. Those things can all
Yes.
contribute to it as well.
Yeah. Because like after we get done grocery shopping and we're tired, we've got a car full of groceries, we just want to have a quick dinner. So we're not going to go home and cook, but we know that about us. So we can create a new habit there, right? Having something available when we get home. So we're not going out to eat, getting takeout, going through the drive-through or whatever. That we can have something at home, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
So we
you
can
get
keep it in the parameters of our spending plan.
and being clear on what you want and why. When we
Yeah.
are dreaming, scheming, vision casting, goal setting, all of those things, I love the question why. That is the perfect time to ask yourself why and to go really
Yes.
7 whys deep. Why do I want to have this financial spending plan that sets me up for long-term wealth, right? Why do I want to do that? Well, why is that important? Well, why will having that matter for me? Go as deep as you can on it until you are at like this is why. So that the why is so compelling that you will more often than not cast votes, be the person who takes the aligned action to get you closer to the thing that you've said you've wanted.
Yeah.
When we don't go deep enough, it's not compelling enough. Again, New Year's resolution abandoned. And we don't even have to be in the new year. It's abandoned.
Right.
The practice that we've said we wanted, we've now abandoned.
Yes. I like that. 7 whys. I feel like that's really great too, especially for the parents that are listening. If they've ever had small children, they're always like, why? Just have and get them in on this and say, hey, just ask me why 7 times. Let's see if they get there, right?
Well, the reason that I love the question why in the direction of something that we want like that, it really helps us to go deep. When I don't like the question why is almost any other like if you're asking yourself like, why do I keep overspending? Why do I keep going to the grocery store hungry and driving through the drive-thru? Why? Quit asking why, because the very first words that are going to come out of your mouth are because, and you're going to tell a story. No shade in telling the story. Like there's no shame, there's no judgment, there's no guilt. You're practiced in this. You know how to say because, just like when you ask your kids, why did you do that? Because, and then they tell you a story. And when I say story, I mean an engraved neural pathway, right? Like they tell you a story. And so quit telling yourself stories. Quit setting yourself up for the because. And instead say, what makes me continue to go grocery shopping hungry and then be tired when I come home and want takeout? What? When did I decide that this is the habit that I wanted to have? It's okay if you can't even answer when. Just ask better questions. How can I start showing up differently in this? Because the definition of insanity, Julian,
is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Exactly. Yeah. So start asking yourself better questions when you want to show up differently, when you want to change your mindset, which is your relationship with something. So your money mindset is your relationship with money. Your identity is who you are being in conjunction with and relation to what you say you want. So what is your money identity? What is your wealth identity? And is it a self-fulfilling prophecy, like of your identity of a broke person or a person who gets some money and then it feels unsafe to have that money because they're not used to having that money. So then they spend the money, right? Like, yes.
You hear this, you hear those kinds of stories over and over again with people that win the lottery and then they go back to the way things were. They just blow all of the money and then they're broke.
Because they know how to be broke. They're really practiced in it. And especially in those cases, like aren't those stories always so sad? Yes. And so what we can learn from that is that contrast shows us what we do want and what we don't want. And so when we see a story like that, instead of what a lot of people would say is like, idiots, if I got that much money, I'd never do that, blah, 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 right? The joke in my house is, first of all, it's when we win the lottery, not if. I know you need to play. We don't play very often, but it's always when. When we win the lottery, no gold toilets. Because this is the downfall. Like this is the thing, right? Gold toilets and everything that encompasses. We don't know how to be people with gold toilets. Like, we don't know how to be those people. And so if we don't get gold toilets, we won't sabotage ourselves. I hope that connection, like, it was really clear in your identity. It's your repeated way of beingness. And so if you want, you get to cycle through identities. That's really healthy. Like right now, if you showed up as a wife on this podcast, that's really not going to serve you or me, right? If you show up as a mom, not really going to serve you or me. You're showing up as a financial expert, a financial coach, and a podcast host. That's serving your audience, and it's facilitating and serving a conversation with me. That is totally normal. We want to be cycling through our identities. Financial coach, no good with your little girl. Like that's not gonna work, right? Your full role as a financial coach. Mommy, who understands finances and wants to help you understand them, totally different identity than the one that you're in right now. Totally different identity. So cycling through identities, very important. What happens is when we get stuck in identities or we have conflicting identities, this is when we win the lottery and we buy gold toilets and we go broke. Because our old identity, right, and our new identity are smacking up against each other, and we're not employing tools to integrate both identities so that we can just be a conscious being of choice. So that, think about the pendulum that swings. This conversation just went a whole different way than I thought. However, I think your audience is going to appreciate it. I want you to think about the pendulum that can swing on an identity. So if we take like an emotion about something, so I am overwhelmed. Sometimes like we want to be in the middle of the pirate ship. So this end of overwhelmed is like, nothing phases me and I'm blasting through everything and I have 100 million things on my list and blah, 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 blah. And this side is we're paralyzed by the things that are happening and we can't do anything. We want to be in the middle of the pirate ship, as my friend Marcy says. Because in the middle of the pirate ship, the seas are steady. If we're at either end, we're doing this the whole time. So we want to be able to tap into a little bit of these superpowers of just being on it and everything on our list and, you know, a perfect human, right? Like over here. Sure. We also want to be able to honor on this side of the spectrum. I'm taking on some extra things. It's feeling a little pinchy. It's feeling a little resistance. Okay, I know what to do. I have tools from being overwhelmed that I can then come back to the middle of the pirate ship. It's the same thing when we have these identities that conflict against each other. And so we want to be able to come back to choosing the identity that's going to help us the most. And when we win $100 million, the identity of a broke person who lives paycheck to paycheck, not going to help us. Learning how this new level of identity, employing people to help us, right? Reaching out for help. That's what's going to help us. So knowing that if you don't have the tools right now to be have financial wellness, you have the resources, you have the brain to say, I get to have support in this and reach out for that support. That's how you start changing yourself at your identity. Because you start your repeated way of beingness. You start casting votes towards the thing that it is that you say you want.
Yeah. So in all of that, the thing that I hear, that I feel like I hear you saying is that it takes action, but for ourselves, it takes some bravery. We have to say like, and be really honest with ourselves that like, okay, we can kind of plug our ears and do the little kid thing like, la, 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 this isn't happening. But it does take, it takes intention, but it really does take some bravery within us to just say, okay, this isn't working anymore. And I need to do something differently. And I know that that's really hard, especially when we were going through that whole scenario ourselves, like being really honest with ourselves that our life, the way it was not working for us, and that we didn't want to keep doing that. And so it took us being brave, but being really honest with ourselves. And I feel like that's what you're saying too, is like, okay, you know what, you're up against it, and here's some tools. But it really takes that getting clear on your why, and taking some action and being brave and just saying, I can do this.
Yes.
I can do this, and I'm gonna make it happen for myself.
And So as you are being brave, then you are helping shape your identity with those alchemized affirmations, allowing your brain to delete, distort, and generalize in that direction, your RAS, to bring you what you anticipate and expect. I'm looking for ways to have fun saving money. Like maybe not, I'm having a great old time saving money yet. Like maybe you're not there yet. However, I'm open to ways to have fun saving money. Like just saying that energy, completely different, right? Than I'll never
We
save
used
money.
to make it a competition, like who can plan a date night and spend the least amount,
I
or
love it.
like what could we do for absolutely nothing and just like keep our eye on the prize is what we would always say. Like that was being debt free for us, like that was the prize, because that gave us a lot of choices moving forward. And so we're competitive people, so we're like, okay, we have to make this a game.
So you gamified it. I love that.
Yeah.
One of the games that I played that my kids didn't always love was how long can I go in between going to the grocery store and cook and make food out of what we have? They'd be like, Mom, go to the store, please.
Right? I don't know how long myfridgefood.com has been around, but that's a game changer for us when we're like, all right, you can play that game, and then you're like, all right, I'm gonna plug it in here and tell me what
exactly
I can make tonight.
Exactly. Focusing on, so that here's what we're talking about just in doing this is having gratitude for the abundance that you already have. So instead of coming at it from a place, and we're not talking about spiritual bypassing or being thankful for dire circumstances, we're not talking about that. What we are talking about is focusing on what you can appreciate that you do have. Instead of dwelling on what you don't have. So you got access to, what's it called? Fill my fridge, find
myfridgefood.com.
Oh, myfridgefood.com. And you can plug in what you do have, right? Now we're focused on what we do have. Again, our brain deletes, distort, and generalizing. Our RAS is bringing us what we anticipate and expect. So when we are focused on abundance, that is what we will see. We will see that we have more when we focus on, I play this game with clients all the time when we're talking about finances, about romancing their money, about cleaning out their wallet, about cleaning out their purse, like making it a place that money wants to hang out, right? Like really shifting your brain in that way, and recognizing that when you get a percentage off of something, you're abundant. When someone in front of you buys your coffee, you're abundant. When XYZ, when you've saved up points for XYZ and now you've got this abundance. When you get an upgrade, when you go somewhere, like how much abundance, that's another game. How much abundance can I find? And you start keeping track of the abundance as opposed to the lack. And pretty soon that's all your brain can see. It's like zero. It's like, look, there's a quarter on the ground. Like it is just zeroing in on bringing that in. That's you creating new neural pathways, training your brain, period. Your brain doesn't know the difference between real and imagine. So also practicing mental rehearsal, which is you like being the human who, right, is saving, is, creating this spending plan that serves their family, that is on the path towards financial freedom so that they can have the kind of life they really want to have, all those things. What does it look like to be that person? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? What does it sound like? And then you can create micro goals. Because remember, this is why New Year's resolutions fail, because we do these giant sweeping, I'm never spending any money, and we're turning off the cable, and nobody's getting new clothes. Like we do these huge things, and then we hate life, most of us, right? Like that's not something that the majority of us are equipped to do. So we create micro goals instead to get us towards that next step and that next step. Because we're flexing our self-esteem muscle and building our self-confidence muscle when we do that, when we set those micro goals. So we can be like, look at us. Look what we just did. How cool are we? We're so awesome. We are getting better and better at cultivating our financial wellness or at our spending plan.
And I think that's why like the debt snowball works so well, because it's not about the interest rates and stuff. It's about creating those wins for yourself so that you're like, I can keep going. I can keep doing this because I can see the results, and it's not this long drawn out process. You're just like, yes, I want more of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another way, because so we're talking about tying our subconscious here, which is going to shift our identity. So we want to align the conscious goals that we say we want with our subconscious, is setting emotional triggers for things. So this can look like if you have a weekly budget meeting, like say you have a weekly spending plan meeting, whatever.
Sure.
What if that's the night that you have, like frozen pizza or whatever, like you tie it to a thing, or when you're creating the spending plan, you're having your favorite cup of tea. Like you're listening to your favorite, pumped up music as you're doing that. So you feel really good about it. Those non-financial rewards for showing up in your finances, right? Like,
Yes.
or really what I was thinking when I said frozen pizza was like, make your own pizza. Like that was always a fun thing that we would do, at home, like buy the ingredients and everybody got to make their own. And so that could be a fun thing. Like whenever we have the financial spending meeting, right? This is what we do after, or even or we have hot chocolate after. It depends on who's involved in the meeting, right? If everybody's in the meeting, you and I talked about this, that's environment as well, right? When we're talking about creating the environment for financial success and financial wellness, before this interview, when you and I spoke, my kids wrote checks out of the checkbook to understand how much things cost, right? Like they were older. They were like 11, 12, and up.
Yeah.
This was a family affair, right? In doing those things. And so whatever that looks like, the reward could also be family reward,
Yeah.
To, again, tie those emotional triggers. When we do A, not only do we get the reward from doing A, from, having the meeting and understanding what we're on the same page about, then we also get this extra reward because our subconscious, right, pounds and feelings. So how does it feel to be these people? How does it feel to be a family who's working towards this together?
Yes.
That will be one of the vital steps that you could take in securing your financial health.
Yeah. Mindi, this is so good. This is so good. I feel like you've given us lots of tips how to make these connections in our brain and kind of help us rewire those old mindsets that really aren't serving us anymore, and helping us create new ones so that we can take the action. We can find it within ourselves to be brave and say, hey, I'm doing this for myself. I'm doing this for my family. I'm doing this for my future, and it matters. And I love what you talked about there. Just like all of the feelings, all of the things that go into the life that you want to create for yourself because you're doing this work. And so I think those are really important things to dig into in this process, because it's like, okay, great, that sounds great. And Joel said, yeah, I should be debt free because it's really great. But I want you to dig in, and what do you want your life to look like? What do you want your typical Monday morning to look like? What time do you want to wake up? I remember having those conversations with my husband, like, what if money was no object, what would you want to be doing with your time? And we had a lot of those dream kind of conversations that now have become a reality for us, that I feel like are really important exercises in especially the beginning of this journey, but to just keep going back to, so that we can have continued success, right?
And what you're saying is, we also call this be, do, have. So the world gets it backwards. Once I have financial freedom, I'll do the things, I'll be the human who has financial freedom. That's why so many people don't get to where they want to go. Instead, be, do, have. Be that person now. So obviously you're not spending $1 million, right? Like you're not doing that. How can you be the person who has financial freedom right now? What thoughts are they thinking? How are they creating a routine that supports them emotionally, spiritually, mentally, right? Like, who are they being with their family? You can tap into all those things right now and start being the person who, so that you're calling it in. Again, like attracts like. So when you're what kind of books are, when you're financially free, when you're debt free, what kind of books are you going to read? Read them now. right? Like, what kind of music you gonna listen to? Like, how you gonna take care of your body? Like, all that kind of stuff. Start calling all of that in so that you're learning how to be that person. Then the identity is expanding and you're showing up more often than not as that person.
Yes, 100%. 100%. I love it. You're so eloquent. I feel like you're so much better with the words than I am. I'm like, yes, this is, yes.
As
Well,
long as
because
they
you're the mindset
translate.
expert. You've been on so many podcasts, and I so appreciate you joining us today and being here and just sharing the things that you've learned along the way and ways for us to exercise those mental muscles so that we can have the lives that we want for our families, and whether that's financial wellness, which is personally I'm super passionate about, but you can apply so much of the things that we learned today to, like you said, copy paste to other areas of our life that we want to grow and have some progress in. And we don't have to wait for the new year. We can do whatever we
Exactly.
want.
Exactly. Get clear.
Yeah.
Get clear.
Yes.
And then create aligned action, small steps towards what you want so that you can celebrate those successes along the way. You're building that self-esteem, building that self-confidence, and you can do anything.
Yes. I love this. Okay. So if people have more questions or they're like, hey, I want more of Mindi in my life, what's the best way to connect with you?
The best way to connect with me is to listen to my podcast, which is just a capsule podcast. I say just. It was a labor of love, just like yours is, right? Like, I was so excited about it. It is a 10-episode podcast, and they'll really go deeper on a whole bunch of stuff that we talked about. And then they'll be in my world, and it'll be easy to connect with me.
Okay, perfect. I'll make sure that we get that in the show notes so that people can connect with you and listen to your capsule podcast. I love it. I love podcasting. Isn't it so much fun?
It is. It is. It's such an amazing way to have an intimate conversation with a whole lot of people.
Yes. Yes. I love it. I love it. So before we go, I have one more question for you.
Yes.
Do you have a dad joke for us?
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Okay. What is it? Let's hear it.
Okay. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Banana.
Banana who?
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Banana.
Banana who?
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Banana.
Banana who?
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Orange.
Orange? Orange who?
Orange, glad I didn't say banana.
Mindi, I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Terrible.
We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Debt Rebel podcast. Now, if you want to take your next step, check out my website, julesthebudgetnerd.com. That's JEWLZ, thebudgetnerd.com. I've created a bunch of resources just for you. So hop on over, check it out, and we can connect more there. If you loved today's episode, I would be honored if you would hit that subscribe button and leave me a review. And remember, every step towards financial independence is a rebellion against debt. So stay strong, keep pushing forward, and fight the good fight. Until next time, Debt Rebels, stay resilient.